Well, hey everybody, this is Chris DeFurio with Keys to the Shop. Welcome to another edition of Shift Break. Today's episode is brought to you by La Marzocco, who has been making espresso machines by hand in Florence since 1927. They are trusted the world over for making dependable, innovative espresso machines that you can trust. They realize it's the heart of your business, and that's why they pride themselves on innovating according to what they know their clients need to be successful coffee entrepreneurs. Espresso machines like the KB90, where they invented the straight-in locking portafilter to increase ergonomics, built-in scales for accuracy of your shots, auto flush for cleanliness. It's just one of many examples of machines that La Marzocco creates in order to fit your needs. And La Marzocco is available to help you make the right selection for your shop. All you need to do is reach out to info@lamarzocco.usa.com, and you can talk with one of their friendly salespeople. You can also visit their website over at lamarzocco.usa.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Espressly, who is creating custom-branded mobile apps for your shop to really match the experience that people get in your store through a mobile app, through the convenience of ordering from their phone. And this is the magic that Espressly creates for your customers. Experience is king. Quality is, of course, very important, but the experience that your customers have interacting with your brand is one of the things that brings them back to you. And Espressly does this so well with their custom branded mobile apps. It's a risk-free model. There's no setup or development fees. You get a drive-through payment scanner, receipt and label printing capabilities. All the data is stored in the app, and it integrates with the leading platforms, including Square. And I really would recommend looking into working with Espressly if you want to offer your customers the convenience of a mobile app and a great experience as well. Go check them out over at espressly.co. That's espressly.co. Okay, everybody. Well, today I wanted to briefly talk with you about a phenomenon that happens in coffee shops often, and it kind of is something we've covered with baristas, where we talk about making customers the enemy. Baristas can tend to do this when they overlay their assumptions about customers on top of their interactions with them, and they don't really give them a fair chance, and they start to construct some kind of a scarecrow. They construct an image of this person as being either irrelevant, not worthy of hospitality, and all this stuff. And then the kind of chit-chat and gossip behind the scenes also contributes to solidifying the customer as sort of this force against which we need to fight. And while that doesn't necessarily happen as much with ownership, I think it does actually happen sometimes when owners can be defensive when receiving critical feedback about what they've poured a lot of effort into, which is completely understandable. When you've poured a lot of effort into the way that you make your coffee, you say you're a roaster, you source your coffee well, you roast it as well as you can, you brew it as well as you can, and still somebody manages to not like the coffee. And we find ourselves oftentimes miffed at this. Like, how could you not like this coffee? Because I've done everything right. And the recipe is correct. We studied a lot to be able to do this, assuming that you have, you've put in a lot of intentionality, and to have somebody come back and say, well, I don't like this very much, it feels insulting, and it feels like you just don't want to accept it. And it also kind of makes you feel like the person is trying to be difficult because you've found this so unbelievable that the only other option is that they're actually trying to be rude, or they're trying to just be petty. When, in fact, what we've actually done is we've built up in our minds an expectation that is unrealistic. Not everybody is going to like our coffees. Not everyone's going to enjoy the experience at your coffee bar. And to a certain degree, that's fine. When responding to critical feedback, outside of the feedback that is genuinely rude, which there is a lot of, especially around, things, pertaining to mask mandates and other things that are happening right now in the public health arena. There is other stuff that I think just gets lumped into, what do they know? The quote unquote, what does the customer know really? I mean, we're the coffee experts and we've gone to the classes and we've got, certified and et cetera. So when a customer doesn't like the coffee or the experience, what we end up doing sometimes is kind of defining them into irrelevance. We say, again, what do they know? It reminds me of a blog that I used to run a blog a long time ago, back in like 2007. And I posted about how it was probably a good idea for us to ask our customers how they like the coffee. Just when you're talking to them, ask them how their experience was before they leave the coffee shop. And there was a coffee professional at the time who was a young coffee professional. I wouldn't say that I was necessarily old, but he was much younger than I. The response was long and vehemently against what I had suggested. Actually, literally taking offense to the idea that professionals, baristas, workers in a coffee shop that are professionals should bother to even ask the opinion of those customers who have not had the kind of education that we have. They haven't learned how to taste coffee. They haven't gone through the paces. And so just very intensely trying to push the idea that these people don't know coffee. And if we ask them about how their coffee is, how useful really could their feedback be? That's the insinuation. And the answer to that question all these years later, and back then also, is very useful, in fact, that because what are you brewing coffee for? Are you brewing coffee and serving coffee and making sandwiches and doing all these things to satisfy an industrial standard, an internal standard that makes you feel nice and warm and fuzzy? That we're doing things according to the SCA's guidelines. We're going according to the course that we took and all this other stuff. That might feel good to do that, but if the customers don't like it, then what's the point of it, right? If the customers are giving you feedback that is critical, then instead of defining people out of relevancy, we need to assume that there's a nugget of truth in there that we should explore, that we should be curious about, and rather than being defensive. One of the things I hate to see on Yelp is people getting very defensive with people leaving bad reviews for their coffee shops. And I get it. Things are tense. It's not, fun to get a 1-star review. But are we really saying that we lack the capacity to generate a 1-star experience? I mean, I think we all have the ability to miss the mark. And as I said earlier, I think there are lots of circumstances where people are just vindictive and they're being rude and they're jerks. And you can get those people flagged and removed from Yelp pretty objectively. But when it's more innocent, preference-based ratings and or even reports about rude service and things like that, rather than, swooping in as the owner and just blindly saying, well, I'm going to defend my staff and I'm going to defend my business, and small business is under attack by petty people, especially during times of COVID. So we need to fight, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. You know what? Fight it with curiosity and kindness and hospitality. I'll tell you, I've had people voluntarily remove reviews from Yelp because I took the time to contact them directly to ask them how we can make the situation right. And then I've had to have other reviews forcibly removed by reporting, simply because the contact didn't work, and it was clear because of how what the investigation showed up on my end, that this person was just out to get people. That sadly exists. It's wrong to assume that that's exactly what's behind every negative critique. So yeah, baristas in the barista cliques and groups and stuff can make the customer the enemy, but I think owners can do the same thing when reviews get a little too close to home and reveal some of our insecurities. So a lot of people who run coffee bars are brand new in the coffee industry, and the standards and structures that are set up in the beginning are the lifeblood of that person. It's like if you ever gone on a ropes course, those, high in the trees, you got a harness on, you're trying to get on you're balancing on ropes in the trees, and it's kind of scary, but you're harnessed in. If you're really afraid of heights, and if you've never done one before especially, somebody could come up behind you and just kind of shake the rope just a little bit, and you will freak out. You will white knuckle and be like, oh my God, I'm going to drop, I'm going to fall. And everyone else maybe who has more experience will be like, it's not a big deal. There's no way that little bit of turbulence was going to make you fall. But you didn't necessarily know it was not going to make you fall. You were just so focused on, these are the things that are keeping me safe. And these are the parameters of brewing and what we do in the cafe. And we've gone through the proper steps. And so when somebody gets too close to that, it feels like an insult, but it really is not. It's an opportunity. I'll link to an episode in the show notes about how to respond to negative reviews, referencing Yelp reviews. It was an episode we did a long while back, but I think you'll find it pretty interesting. And today's shift break, I just wanted to encourage you that just because you've got standards and parameters and you're satisfied with the quality of what you do and you think it's amazing, it doesn't necessarily mean everyone's going to think it's amazing. And when you do find people that give you negative feedback, don't define them out of relevance. Don't write them off. Don't make them the enemy. They're giving you a gift, and you can use it to your advantage if you've got the right attitude to approach it. So I hope that today's episode was helpful for you. Thank you everyone so much for listening, and I will see you here next week on another edition of Shift Break. From keys to the shop.